All right, hi everybody. So welcome back to AI Horizons. So it looks like we are full here. We're still letting people in and transitioning people from Teams over to Zoom. But we have a great agenda for today. I'm excited because we're going to get to hear from students for, I think, the very first time. But before we get started, I do have some quick housekeeping items. Let me pull up my agenda again because that always goes away. Okay, so first things first, we do have some schedule changes. So coming up in March, we will be canceling the March AI Horizons meeting. I will send out a calendar invitation and also put that in the team space. But the reason we're canceling that is we will be doing a small AI Horizons at the TLT Symposium, which is that very weekend. And then the week after the symposium is the AI Week, which is hosted by the AI Hub, David Hunter. And daily during the AI Week, we will be doing a daily session of AI Horizons. So we're losing AI Horizons in March, but we're getting 5 more at the first week of April. So those changes will be coming. They'll also be added in the team space as well. And a note on the team space, you may see a name change coming soon. We decided that we're going to rebrand AI in the classroom. So that is the team space that is connected to AI Horizons. We're just going to call it AI Horizons. So everything has a consistent name across the meeting and the space. So now we can refer to it as just AI Horizons community. So we have the team space and the monthly meeting. Yes, I think that is all I have for today. So we do have, I mentioned we have a very exciting agenda. I'm excited for it. The 2 speakers we have today are Dr. Andrea Adolph. She will be talking about the creation of Adobe Firefly assignments and how to develop students' close reading skills, followed by Erica Fleming. You may have heard from her, I believe, last semester or in the summer. She taught IST 130, which is a new course last semester all about AI. I won't steal her thunder. She can go over more about that course. But without further ado, I will kick it over to Dr. Andrea Adolph, and she will share about her course and assignments.
Thank you. I'm a little froggy this morning, so I apologize for any of that. Just when you think that the 100-day cough is gone, it comes back. So I am going to tell the story of this assignment and this course, and then I have some examples to share of some key things. So last fall, I had the pleasure of teaching an honors writing class. It was a composition course and a small course. And because I was reading so much about AI, trying to just catch up with issues of plagiarism and other things through the LLMs like ChatGPT, I decided that they would read all the same things with me, and that would be the focus of the course. So that was a small group of smart students who were engaged all around thinking about artificial intelligence in the world. So not just writing and image creation, but other kinds of impacts in different industries. And I left the 4th project open because I wasn't sure what AI would look like between August and December. And then as I started to listen to the students who were really already engaged with doing some of this work, I learned from them what image creation software, how it works, and was very caught by the idea of having to write in an iterative process, write prompts so that they would better get to the results that the creator wants to get. And one student had done quite a bit of this work over the summer, just playing around. And when he said, oh, sometimes I have to write 10 or 15 sentences to get what I want, I got very excited as a writing teacher. And I realized that the combination, I think drawing or image creation manually is not new to thinking about how to get students to respond to literature. But in general education literature courses especially, you can't guarantee that students come in with a lot of background in close reading. And so I originally thought about doing this project in a class, a general education literature course, but I realized I did not know enough. And my students in the other class did. And so while we were trying to figure out what software to use, because the free Dolly and Crayon and other kinds of things online are very limited in the number of times you can create things every day, and didn't, of course, have any plan to make them pay for anything. And so it just happened that we had in maybe October or November, a demonstration through AI Horizons by someone from Adobe about Firefly. And the fact that it was there, they could access it, it was free. I already had experience with express assignments. And so I took that forward to them, and they were all right. They were a little nervous because they know how to write papers, but not necessarily didn't think of themselves as artists. And I said, don't worry, I won't grade the quality of your art. So let's see. I'm going to share just a bit. Okay. This is the basic steps of the assignment. So in the beginning, I had them do a mini project, and it was clear because I just gave them maybe a photocopy of a page from a novel or a poem, and that I felt was highly visual, and they had no context. So there was a problem there. But there was they just had to do three slides, or three images, and put them together for this, just to get used to how Firefly works. And then for this, it just happened to provide her with images that were aligned with the time period of the piece she was looking at, but she didn't know that, right? I thought, oh, she doesn't know this is a poor sort of, slum apartment in 1950s London. But it sort of started to come out well enough for her, and really, tried to get the images, the colors that she wanted. And then they started to do things with Firefly that I wasn't really planning on. I was just asking them to use increasingly complex prompts to get what they want. But they started sitting in the computer lab and sharing ideas with each other, like creating, using one as a reference photo, or starting to use generative fill. And they taught themselves that, or taught each other that. So I sort of just hovered and learned by osmosis. She was trying to get the toothbrushes out of the bathtub, and there was kind of always a mirror. It seems like Firefly likes mirrors quite a bit. And so by the time they went through those, and we learned about some of the, I don't want to say limitations, but just learned how Firefly works, I just decided to assign each of them a whole text, a short story, randomly selected short stories for them, all by the same author, Virginia Woolf, in ways, because there's an upcoming conference on Woolf and technology that I'm hoping to better this for in the summer. But they were all assigned to read and do an analysis as they would in a kind of basic literature course, and then to select 2 or 3 passages that they felt like they could exemplify visually, and to do so with 5 increasingly complex prompts. And the they had to write a little bit each time about why they made their choices, what they were trying to get to, and then do a summary at the end, both of the analysis of the passage and the lessons learned from using Firefly. So I have 2 whole projects that I think are really good examples. So they had to do that and then create all this, put everything into Express. This student did a little bit of research and discovered that Kew Gardens is a national botanical park in London, and so went from there, selected a longer passage about 2 men kind of walking through park and really considered perspective, point of view, things that I didn't ask them to, but I could take this now into a literature course or another similar general education course and have students try to carefully read and always go back to the text. That was a main criterion, that these images have to be directly connected to what you're reading. And that was part of what they had to write about. And so it goes from a man walking, selecting the right image, the right time period. They all discovered that if you tell Firefly that the people are facing the camera, you'll get the front facing and not them walking away. So that was something that this student did. And just increasingly paying attention to these people they're walking by, the ways that the other people are described, like this woman with blonde hair that someone has a walking cane. They also discovered that Firefly didn't quite pick up on some of the words they were using to describe things they wanted to have in the photo. And so they got creative about their vocabulary and using different things to create with. And this student started to use generative fill to kind of finalize what he wanted here. And so this is one of the final pieces. The other one is from a different perspective, used a different approach. One of the women in the park said it reminded him of paintings like this. And then got them to face the camera. Tried to age them quite a bit. One of them that semester said 56 was old, and I said, hey, now. I don't really know what they were going for. So, and then the end here was with having to go back, talk about do a more developed analysis after finishing the project, and then write about some ideas about using the software. And this was a really good example. This student in the second example is the one that came in with the most experience. And I think it shows in his ability to manage the software. Some students, I think if they still had some learning curve with Firefly, they got caught up in that and not necessarily able to get into the heart of the assignment. And so this is a woman getting ready for a party, putting on a yellow outfit. He was trying to perfect the dress. And very interesting, you know, choosing to use terms like Gatsby style or, you know, roaring 20s, but those weren't, you know, exactly to the text, but that was his reference point, which was interesting. Telling me I probably would not do this first off in a semester, but give them some examples of other literature before I would take off into something like this. And so here she's looking into mirrors, a deep blue fancy looking glass. And I think some students who had experience with other software did find that the fact that Firefly uses Adobe stock a little bit limiting, but I explained that was, you know, that was good because it also wasn't, they weren't having to worry about the ethics necessarily of using something that was scraping images off the internet. So other upstairs, getting the dress right. Very specifically wanted, you know, hands on railings. People were worried about which hand the cane was in sometimes and getting into, you know, very specific aspects that I might not worry about in a close reading, but especially with writers like Wolf, I am a modernist by training, and sometimes students can get a little bit bother, you know, they if they don't understand the prose, then they have trouble, they get hung up sometimes on really understanding what some of the imagery is trying to do. And so I would like to eventually take this kind of assignment to students who are who can just to ask them, what do you see when you read this metaphor that might not make sense to you? What do you see? And then try to break it down from that perspective. And so I'm happy to take a few questions now, but I don't want to kind of waylay the rest of the morning's presentations.
Hey, Andrea, I do have a question, maybe two questions. So I guess my first question is more, I guess, of a logistical, maybe prompting question, is I saw that you had the passages, either the students chose them or you assigned them. Now, were the students in charge of writing their own prompts for Adobe Firefly? Was there any like prompt training that you offered, or did they kind of just learn that themselves?
We did the first day. We spent the last 2 weeks of the semester in the computer lab, so that helped. The first day, you know, I was at the podium and we just sort of together, because it was a small class and it was 9 students, so I was lucky to, you know, just get to try this out. But we generated prompts around just kind of goofy things, so that they could see, if they had never explored the software, they could see what kinds of things they might need to do to get it to actually present what they're asking for. And then they did the mini project where they practiced putting in their own prompts. But I really wanted them to read whatever passage they had or whole story they had, come to their own conclusions about some sort of analysis, and then take that into writing their prompts.
Okay, interesting. I guess that's a great segue into my second question is I love the analysis piece at the end. And I'm not sure if there was a way for you to measure this or gauge this, but I was wondering if the use of AI enhanced the students' analysis because they had to really envision the passage and to create an image based off of that, and they had to tinker with the prompt maybe a couple times. So I wonder if you saw any more enhanced analysis of the students' understanding of those passages.
I did, and they reported also that it
Okay.
helped them overall. If it were specifically a literature course. They had not read in my class any literature ahead of time. This was sort of a, hey kids, let's try something fun. And they all agreed to it. So it was fine. But in another class, I think I would scaffold smaller assignments for at least, 4 or 5 weeks before I would try something like this.
Sure, awesome. It looks like we have a question. Someone joined late and they asked which class this was for.
So I tried this out in English 30, which is honors first year writing, but only because they were sort of my guinea pigs. I would use this again in a general education literature course. I regularly teach a course called Authors and Artists, and that's where I wanted to take this, but I realized I was ignorant about how to start this, and really did learn from my students because they had about half the class had some good experience with similar software.
Awesome. Any other questions? I'm catching up in the chat. Looks like there's a lot of great comments in here about your course, but no specific questions. There is one question unrelated to the course, but more about Adobe stock images and Firefly. Wendy, I don't know. So Wendy's question is, we are careful about how many credits we are using with Adobe stock images. If instructors incorporate Firefly, is there some type of limit we should be aware of? I'm not sure if
There is not.
Okay, there is.
No.
I was also leaning towards no, but I wanted confirmation. It looks like the general consensus is Adobe Firefly does not count towards your Adobe stock credits at Penn State here.
It pulls from stock, but you're not accessing directly those stock images, so it doesn't count towards any of the anything.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we have a question in chat. Are scientific images available? I'm not quite sure what that means. Could you expand on that question, Leanna? If you're asking if you can generate those images in Adobe Firefly, I would say jump in and try it out. I would say you probably can, but getting to those images would just be a case of iterative prompting. But
My experience has been they're generally not accurate. You can get something that visually represents something scientific, but not something that would be scientifically accurate to a cell or anything like that.
yes. Or if you're asking if those images are available in Adobe Stock, I would also say most likely, but you just have to log into Stock and see what images are available. Awesome. So if there are no other questions, we're going to move on. If anybody does have further questions for Andrea, please drop them in chats. Andrea can monitor chat, or we will send them to her. But now we're going to kick things over to Erica, who will present with some students about IST 130.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. And thanks for having me back. This is, I was excited to come talk about 130 last semester, and I'm still excited to talk about it now. So I actually don't remember what I talked about last semester, which is, sorry about that. But the class went really, really well. So for those of you who don't know me, I am Erica Fleming. I am the Assistant Director of Teaching and Learning in the College of IST at University Park. I helped to develop and taught our first run of IST 130, Emerging Technologies in Popular Culture, last semester. It's a very generic name that we're working on probably changing at some point, but the gist of it is AI and creativity for any of you who weren't here last semester. I have brought two of my students with me today. This is Hayden DiPaolo and Caitlin Venture. They were both students in the class last semester, and this semester are actually undergraduate learning assistants in the course as it's running in its second run. I am not teaching it again this semester. The current instructor could not be here because he teaches at 10:35, but I did talk to him about this before I came over here today. So I basically just kind of wanted to give you an update on how the end of the class went, but my biggest excitement about being here is I provided my students with a couple questions ahead of time that I was just going to have them share with you what their experience was in the class and some of the things that they learned and found helpful. And also just they're going to share some of their projects as well. We thought it would be fun, kind of similar to what Andrea did, to give you an idea of what the students were producing. So just really quickly, the class focused on using generative AI tools to create different forms of art. So writing, text, music, art, regular visual art, and some kind of animated stuff and interactive stuff as well. By the end of the semester, the students had gotten a lot better at using the tools, which was really, really cool. It was fun to see that kind of increase in understanding of how to prompt the tools, how to use them to get what they were looking for more quickly. And so we did see a really big increase in the types of things that they were producing, which was really cool. The thing that was the most exciting for me was when I got my SEEQ results back. So a couple of weeks after the end of the semester, I had about 118 of my 330 students filled out their student reviews, which was really exciting for me. But they were overwhelmingly positive. And the vast majority of them talked about the things that they had learned in the class, which was really exciting. And I just wanted to share a couple that I thought were really interesting really quickly. One of them said it really opened up a pathway for students to understand the emerging new technologies. It was giving the opportunity to actually learn to use AI, made him feel more appreciative about the technologies around us. Some of them also talked about how it made them more leery of AI. They are less likely to use it for things now that they know more about what it can and cannot do. One of them said he just fundamentally ethically disagrees with the way AI is advancing, and a lot of the things his classmates were really excited about. So it was interesting to see that other perspective as well. He basically said, I enjoyed the class, but I'm not going to use AI in the future, and talked about a couple reasons why, which I thought was really, really neat. So it was great to see they were really, some of the assignments made them think really critically about when, why, and how they should be using these tools, and when and why and how they shouldn't as well, which was pretty cool. It was really interesting to see those. In their final assignment, I asked them to talk about the ethical issues that they were most concerned about moving forward, and the vast majority of them cited security and privacy and like personal ownership and copyright issues. As the two kind of biggest things that they were worried about. But kind of overall, the vast majority of them said that they enjoyed learning about the tools and about the possibilities that went along with them. So I'm happy to answer questions about the class specifically at some point, but I would love to kind of kick it over to my students really quick. So either of you can answer any of these questions, or neither of you, whatever works best for you. But I wanted to start with, what was your level of experience using AI tools before taking the class?
I think we can both answer that one.
I never played with AI before this class. That was something strictly like blocked on all of our high school net, so we didn't even have access to it.
I remember when ChatGPT got popular. This would have been like really popular last year, and everyone like in class was using it, playing around with it. Some people were using it as a calculator, search engine, whatever. But other than just like here and there with chatbots, very little.
Very little.
Yes.
So both Caitlin and Hayden were first semester students when taking my class. So why did the two of you decide to take the class?
I was told to.
You were told to.
I was also told to. When I was scheduling for my first semester, like how new student orientation goes, they're very like this is what you need.
Sure.
Like this. But because it was a new course, they had like a little slip of paper and they're like, look into this. This is cool. Like this could be your art credit. And I was like, well, it's a tech class, but it's art. And I was like, that is really intriguing. I will absolutely take that and see how it goes. And it worked out really well. So
I was given a sticky note, and it was either this class or econ, and I'm not going into econ.
So for anyone who doesn't know how the admissions process or how the advising process works for first year students, they pretty much get the last pick of classes the summer before they start. So there's not a huge range of classes available to them. And I'm not going to lie, the IST advisors really hyped up 130
They
a
did.
lot, like
They
a
did.
lot.
But I'm glad they did.
I'm glad you're glad. That's awesome. Okay, so since taking the class, how has it kind of impacted the way you use, if you use AI tools at all, the way you're using them now? And maybe outside of your work, so both of them work in the class
Yeah.
now, but outside of your work in 130.
I use mine as a study guide because Quizlet just came out with an AI on their
Oh, cool.
website, and it applies it to your new study sets. So I like messing with it in there because it will actually go out and find more information about my study set that I might not necessarily have added in.
Cool.
I use it if I'm very like stuck with an idea and I just need like a little bit of like push to get me to where, like, for example, I was writing a paper for my architectural history class and there were some like words that I was stuck on and I was like looking it up and I couldn't find exactly what I wanted. But I knew that if I used like a creative chatbot, such as like the Copilot, like the creative mode, like I knew it was going to give me like a strict like list of words that would have been helpful. So like instances like that, I usually use chatbots.
So it's a place you can go to when you're stuck and other searching
Yes.
functions are not working quite the same way.
Yes.
Cool. I didn't know about the Quizlet tool. I'm gonna have to check that out. I haven't looked at that at all yet. That's really cool. How, if it did the class impact your views on the ethics of AI? And if you could actually share what your majors are too, that actually will give some context here.
So I'm a cybersecurity major.
So Hayden has big opinions.
I do. We literally started a debate about fraud and phone scams in class.
Yep.
The ethics behind it?
Yeah, like, did it impact your view of ethics, of the ethics of AI at all?
Not really, because I knew, I don't play with them, but I did know it like took stuff from random places and didn't like, the citations. And I just knew it could be like used in bad ways. Like we talked about the fake you, how it can like manipulate someone's voice. And there was the artist one where it made it sound like a musician that was dead.
Yeah.
So I just thought scam calls and trying to get all that information with the baby crying in the background.
Yeah, so very much applying
fun
it to
day.
kind of the work you do in cybersecurity and that kind of stuff. Cool. Caitlin?
Yeah, so I'm a data science major. But I think going before the class, I knew like a bit about deepfakes and how AI could, possibly, hurt people and be poor in those ways. But it kind of just solidified that. It was like, this is the biases behind AI. This is what's wrong with it. But it also helped me learn like how to avoid that and how to use AI properly, so that you don't run into those ethical issues and you can avoid them. Not completely, but as much as possible.
Or at least be aware that they
Yeah.
exist so you
Right.
can be looking out for them and
Yes.
things like that. That's fantastic. What is one thing that you wish the class had covered or gone more in depth with?
Security.
More secure. So it was an AI and creativity class, but I do respect that. We do need to have more AI security classes. I agree.
I think we could have gone more in depth on the music tools. I feel like I really understood how to use the art generators and how to write my prompts and the iterative process. Like I fully understood that. And with the literature unit, like I was able to write the stories and pick out the good parts, the bad parts, mold them together. That I understood. But I don't think I finished the class with a full understanding of how to create somewhat okay music, because the tools are very complicated and some of them require like different music backgrounds than others. So I think going more in depth on how to use the music tools.
Would have been interesting.
Yes.
And full transparency, that was the unit I was the least comfortable with as the instructor in the class. Because they are the most complicated, and as someone who did not have a background in AI going into this, and I was learning along with my students most weeks, I completely agree with you on that one.
Yes.
I had 10 years of orchestra going into that. the AI music tools were way over my head. And we had
Very
proposed
technical.
stuff before that.
Yeah, they're kind of, if you haven't used AI music tools at all, they're kind of on one side of the spectrum or the other. They're either very limited, like you can give it a prompt and it'll spit something out and there's very little you can do with it afterwards. Or they're incredibly complex and you need to be able to, like you have to have some kind of background in music production digitally to make them kind of do what you want. I don't know if I haven't touched one in like 2.5 months at this point. So there might be new ones out now that are, I don't know, Zach, you probably know that better than I would, but.
Well, I say, so, we presented in Erica's class last semester and also in Chris's class this semester, and I would say the music tools have gotten more limited. In a sense that they're more freemium/premium. You have to pay for full use of them. So it is hard to find a free, good music tool currently.
Yeah, makes sense. So yeah, unsurprising. I wish that I knew more about them too. Maybe I need to learn more. So I think on the other side of the spectrum, what did you find, like, what was the most valuable thing that you learned in the class?
I learned more about machine learning.
Mhm.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, just how it works in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the true limits of AI today, because I think in the media, a lot of people are extremely worried about AI just taking over and stealing jobs and that kind of stuff. But going through the class helped me understand that AI is not really there yet. In some industries, it does do more that some people have done in the past, but that's, I mean, other technology does that too.
Yeah.
It just helps the process go by a little faster. I don't think that really truly believing that AI is like about to take over the world is correct.
So understanding more about it made it feel less like this kind of big, huge
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot less, not that I was scared of it before, but I'm understanding it and how it actually works and where it's at.
Yeah. We had a lot of interesting conversations in class about AI being a tool like any other technology tool that has come along, and this is just the newest one that people are currently freaking out about. And we've spent some time talking about how the tools in and of themselves are not inherently bad, and the way people decide to use them is what makes it, good or bad, I suppose. So I love that. So I wanted to ask you both if you would be willing to, whoever wants to go first, to share one of your projects from the class and just talk a little bit about it, like what you did and what you learned from it.
I can go first because yours is better than mine. I'm gonna share.
So do you have Zoom open?
Yes, just, yeah. That way it should be.
So mine was very basic and it was a very sad week at the time. It was around finals and the whole prompt was Disney princesses in therapy from the point of view of the therapist.
Oh, and just for some context for this assignment, the students had to use at least 2 or 3 different AI tools from different like categories to create something. So this was the AI integration assignment. They had to use more than one tool to create something out of it. So
Yeah, so for the image, I used Bing Image Creator, and then for the little speech that the therapist gives, it was ChatGPT. A lot to read.
you have to read it aloud. So why did you choose these tools in particular when you did this?
I used ChatGPT because I've been playing with it for a little bit, and it definitely was funny.
Yeah.
So I thought because of the it's Disney and parents are all dead, might as well add some humor into it. Listen, it was a rough week. So we used that to get a little bit more fun and a little bit more detail in the Disney aspect, because I also realized that ChatGPT, it doesn't go very adult a lot. So it was definitely more targeted towards kids, I feel like.
Sure.
Or a younger audience. And then I used Bing Image Creator because I was really bad with Adobe. Could not figure that out.
So the Bing Image Creator is a little more simplistic. There's not quite as many options.
I also like how it gives you four options to one
Yes.
shoot for one prompt. Because this way you can keep going, but at the same time, it also saves it on the side, which was nice, because I think this was maybe actually my 7th iteration out of 30.
So you just chose the one that you
Yeah,
liked the
they also
best?
got really dark at the end,
Oh.
so
Huh.
Ariel was killing someone.
Wow. Huh. Do you feel like this project was kind of helpful at the end of class to kind of pull together the things that you had learned over the semester about using these tools at all? Or not helpful, however,
I thought it
sorry, I
was
didn't mean
helpful
to ask
because
a
like
leading
it makes you
question.
realize how much you can actually just start lacing them together. And you can make like this whole fun story or, yeah.
Awesome. No, thank you so much for sharing it. I appreciate it. Caitlin, do you want to share one of yours?
Yes, so I decided I will end up sharing my integration project because there's something specific I want to share with it. So the chatbots that like, you have Bing and ChatGPT and like Perplexity, but do you in the room at least, do you know Pi, the chatbot Pi?
I do not know pi.
Because
No.
I
no,
really
no
like Pi.
Interesting.
So,
Is it PI? PID?
yes, just PI. It's been updated since. It used to have a bunch of different modes, but now they kind of limited it a little bit. But I'll share my screen so I can talk about it with the page. So this is Pi. You can there's like a regular chatbot version of it. But you can there's this discovery page, so you can get different common questions that people would have, or if you wanted to practice a big conversation, you can get tips on that. It'll give you tips on a bunch of different specific stuff. But I wanted to use it for this project because I was like, this is a different one I haven't used in this class at all. So I used it to come up with a character. Since it's, has these different roles, I thought it would be more creative than most. So I was like, come up with a character that I could use to create like a video on. And it came up with a time traveling alien named Kronos. So I plugged that information into UberDuck, which generates raps for you. And I did it like a few times because they're like 20-second clips and we had to do like a minute of video. So I did like a couple in UberDuck, and then I drew what I thought Kronos, the time traveling alien, would look like. And then I used an animation tool to make Kronos dance. And then I overlaid Kronos dancing with the UberDuck rap. And then we have Kronos, the time traveling alien. I think I need to put the sound up on here for it to work.
Did you share the sound when you shared your screen? So you're gonna turn that off. Unshare, if you unshare,
Okay.
and then when you click the share button at the bottom, there's
Share
something that
yeah.
says share sound.
Okay.
And just make sure you turn your sound down again. Should be.
Yeah, this will work. Oh, it's not sharing the sound. Sad.
But we at least will have the lyrics up on the screen. You can see Kronos dance. So. Do the Kronos.
It turned out awesome. I really love it. So I'll ask you the same question that I asked Hayden. Did you feel like this helped you like put things together at the end of the class? And like, did you learn anything from the integration assignment specifically?
Yes, so it definitely helped me see how the different AI tools can interact with each other, and they're definitely not all separate. And I think like even though it's not like a music video, you can see how like you could do the animation and the music and maybe like the lyrics are auto-generated. So I like being able to see how it all can come together and not just be like separate AI tools.
Is this a thing you would have ever done without AI tools?
I don't think so.
Okay, I was just curious. I would not have, which is why I was just curious. I have actually one more student project that I'm gonna share.
Can I ask one question?
Oh yeah, go ahead, Jessie.
For Caitlin.
Yeah.
Could you just remind me what tools you used to draw the?
It was hand drawn.
Oh,
I
okay.
digitally drew it on my computer. And then it's just animated drawings to animate the character that I drew. So I saved the image and it allows you to like point out like it's like head and limbs, and then it can animate it for you. There's a lot of different options. And then Pi was the one I used to do just to create the character, like the idea for the character, and then UberDuck for the lyrics and the
Okay.
music.
Thank you.
Cool, thank you. So I have one other student who couldn't be here this morning. His name's Mirav Shah, and he is also one of the learning assistants for the class this semester. But his final project was really, really interesting, and he was very proud of it. So he was excited when I asked him if I could share it with you all. I'm just gonna share my screen really quickly. I'll just share my whole desktop because it's a couple pieces. He created a comic using, and I have they all had to write a process reflection that shared the process they went through, the tools they used, and they had a reflection about what they learned by using the tools, and a couple other things as well. They had to share about what their experience was with each of the tools that they used. So he used a tool called AI Comic Factory. And ChatGPT to help, he actually used he used Chat, Perplexity, and Bing, all three of them, to do different parts of it. And then the last thing I'll show you is he created a very, very short animation of one of the characters from the comic book. He had like a 4-page comic that he created. He apologized to me that it wasn't longer. And I'm like, dude, this was fantastic. But he came up with this story and then used this comic generator to help tell the story. And you don't have to read the whole thing or anything, but you can see the comic conventions that it has going on, right? And so it's just this very short little story. But I really loved and he really loved how it turned out in particular too. And then he asked a tool called Genmo, that's an animation tool, just to do a really brief animation of the main character. Let me grab it's in here. And so it's not anything super fancy. It's just a 4-second clip of the character moving, but it adds a little additional kind of movement to it, which I thought was really, really cool. And he's a big AI guy. He's a computer science major, and was very excited to kind of put all these tools together and be playing with them. And so I wish he could have been here this morning to talk about it himself. But just a couple other things that I'll mention really quickly. I'm gonna throw a link in the chat. We were really lucky that our marketing team in IST was really super interested in what we were doing. And they actually wrote an article in our IST iConnect magazine. I just put the link into chat. We did an art competition with the AI and art assignment that the students actually voted on their favorites from the AI generated art creations that the students made. And then our iConnect folks, the folks who in our marketing department that work on that, they created a whole story about it that featured the 5 top, I think it was 6, the 6 top art pieces and talked a little bit about kind of the process and what it meant in the class. And my favorite thing was if you click on that link, it was Vincent Van Gosling was the name of the piece of art. It was an image of Ryan Gosling in the style of Vincent van Gogh. And the student who created it actually asked to remain anonymous, did not want to be featured in the piece, because he said, I don't feel like I created this and I don't feel like I should take credit for it. Because he had very strong feelings about ownership and authorship and those types of things around AI. So I love that that this class was a thing that sparked those kinds of conversations and those kinds of kind of reflection and thought process within a lot of the students. And I saw this in a lot of their final process reflections for their final assignment as well, is that they were really engaging with thinking about the use of AI more on like from an ethical perspective and like thinking forward for how it might be used in the future. So yeah. If anyone has any questions, all three of us are happy to answer some if anyone has anything they'd like to ask, or otherwise, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions for Erica or her former students?
They're actually still my students. They're in my class this semester, so.
So I have a question for the students, and this could just be a no, because I'm just curious if this class, IST 130, drove any conversations in other classes that you had, either with your faculty or with your peers, whether your other teachers had different policies of don't use it, or if your students were doing something wrong with it. Did anything come up like that stemming from this class?
I don't think so. I know that in most other classes, AI is like absolutely do not touch this. Like you will get an academic integrity violation if you use AI on the assignment. Like, you know, make AI do pretty much all the work, not getting like one math calculation from it. Actually, in my math classes, we are allowed to use not like, it's not explicitly stated like chatbots, but like the AI like math help tools. Like we're allowed to use those on some of our assignments because we're not supposed to use calculators, but some of the assignments require the use of calculators just because some of the calculations are a little bit more complex. And because they're not testing our ability to use a calculator, they're like, you know, you can use those tools, any, you know, advanced graphing calculator, but specifically from this class,
Okay,
no.
gotcha. Awesome, thank you.
Not necessarily topic-wise. I know it sparked an argument between a teacher and a student, just based off the history of the computer and AI, because the professor apparently was playing with it and said something wrong about like the wheels and so, you know, we're IST students. You're gonna go at it with them at every chance you get.
Awesome. Cool, thank you.
I think Lisa asked if I was going to teach the class again, what would I do differently? And it's funny, I don't know that I would do much differently with the course content. I would do a lot of things differently with my teaching. But this was my first time teaching a class bigger than 30 students, and I had 330. So it was kind of a big leap in little change. So like there's some things that I would do differently involving how do you create community in a large classroom? How do you engage students in a way that keeps them excited about content when they're in 100 Thomas and it's really easy to just check out and shop on your laptop or watch golf, which some of our students did, or Netflix. There was a bit of
Just a lot of
Huge
Amazon
issue
Prime.
with it.
yeah. And I hear it's gotten, the class is larger this semester. There's 530 in it this semester. And I hear it's been even kind of more of an issue this semester than it was for us. We did find some ways to kind of ameliorate that last semester that I think worked well and we got better at over the course of the semester. But more than anything else, I would just be excited to teach it again, to try new things. You know, if I taught it again a year from now, all of the tools would have changed. And all of the capabilities will have changed, and that's exciting to me. Like, I think that would be super fun to go back to it a year from now and be like, okay, what do I have to change in everything I did a year ago just to keep up with how the technology has evolved? So yeah, I'm interested. I would be interested to do that at some point. But also I'm just kind of interested in teaching a large class again, just in general. I found it way more fun than I anticipated. Really enjoyed it. Loved having that many students. I don't know, it was a good time. I think we had a good time most of the time. Yeah, it was a good class.
Interdomain class in, that'd be great.
What?
You make an interdomain class.
Interdomain
let
class
me
out of
know.
it. Got it.
Take it.
Got it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Erica, and thank you for the students who came to present today. If there's any other questions, please continue the conversation in the Microsoft Teams space. Real quick, I'm gonna pop in 2 links into the Zoom chats. Make it. Also, we have about less than 20 spots left for registration, so that is happening the Friday before the symposium on March 22nd. So if you're interested in attending Make It, it'll be all AI focus. We'll have 3 hands-on AI activities. Head there now, registration's open. And then I also included the link again for AI Week, which we will be having daily AI Horizons. So please join us if the schedule permits. Well, thank you everybody for coming, and we will see you all either at the symposium, Make It, or AI Week.